Do you want to build an AI application that can search the web and answer any question you throw at it? Today, I will show you step by step how to do this with Visual Studio Code using Groq, and it's going to be ridiculously easy. As an example, I will show you how you can build an application that can generate a detailed description for a company based on scraping the internet. So let's get started. So here I'm in Visual Studio Code and I opened already the notebook that I want to use, which you can also find in the descriptions of this YouTube video. And as always, we have to import some libraries. Given that we will use the Groq platform, I need to import Groq. So let me do that now. If you have not yet installed it, you will have to do pip install Groq to get it installed. The second thing we need to do is to load our Groq API key. So I have stored that as a file. I have another video where I explain step by step how to do that. So you can check it out if you don't yet have a Groq API key. But so here I have defined my Groq API key as the API key that I want to use in this environment. So now I will read my Groq API key. And then we are actually ready to start prompting using web search. And in order to do so, we will now briefly go to the Groq platform where I can easily show you how we can start doing this. So here I'm in the Groq platform. So you can go there to go to console.groq.com and then you press on playground. And here we can start kind of building a prompt. And today we are using the Groq Compound mini model. And why do we do that? Because this is one of the models that has the web search functionality. So if we go here to the right-hand side, we can see kind of the characteristics of this model. And here you can see that indeed web search is possible and that it can visit websites. And that's what we need. So I have enabled these two options. And in that way, my model will be able to actively search on the internet for information. So it's important that these two options are enabled. And now I have already prepared here a system and a user prompt. So the system prompt is a kind of chain of thought prompt that I already defined, where I instruct the model to go to the internet and search for information about companies, and based on that, create a company description. So I'm saying step 1, go to the internet and try to find as much information as possible about the company. Step 2, double check the collected information. And step 3, based on the collected and checked information, write a clear and comprehensive company description. So this is my system prompt. So with this prompt, I kind of instructed to be able to search for information about companies and create a company description. And in my user prompt, I give a specific company. So I now use the example of Upfest, which is a fintech company headquartered in Berlin. So I'm saying, look, this is kind of the company for which you have to create a company description. So it's the company Upfest, situated in Berlin. So these are the system and user prompts. And then, as always, the Groq platform already kind of creates the code that can execute this prompt. So now I can simply copy this code by here clicking on copy. And now we can bring it to our own Visual Studio Code environment. So now I'm back in Visual Studio Code. And so now I will simply copy paste my prompt here. I can remove this part because this I already have written down at the start of my coding. So client is Groq. You now see that I have my system prompt and my user prompt. And now we can actually immediately already start executing this prompt. So now I can press play. And now we will have to wait for the output. And given that it now has to search on the internet, this typically takes a number of seconds. But now it's ready. And so now I have a chat completion object. And this consists of different parts. And if we now want to get the description out of it, I simply now have to add a kind of code and say print. And from the object, I now want to have not just this part, but then from this part, the content. So I will now paste that here. And already the GitHub agent predicts that I want to have the content, which is true. So I just have to press step now. And if I now press play, I will get my company description. And here we can see it gives me quite an extensive description, providing a lot of information about this company. So in this way, we can easily create a prompt to start engaging in web search. Now, what you need to understand here is that because it needs to go to the internet, collect information, typically here it starts using much more tokens. So we can actually double check that. So now let me actually get how many tokens it has printed. So I now have to find in the completion object the kind of usage. And now we can already see here the amount of prompts that have been used. So completion tokens is 2,275, prompt tokens 200,641, and so total tokens 4,916. Yeah, so for this one single prompt, it used like 5,000 tokens. That's still manageable. However, if we would now want to scale this so that we don't want to just for one company, but for multiple companies want to do this, quickly you will hit what is called the rate limits at Groq. And let me briefly show you where you can see that. So when I go back to my Groq cloud platform, I can now go to docs, and then here I can see rate limits. And these actually indicates what are the limits for the free usage of this Groq platform. And so for different models, you have different limits. And here you see for the Groq Compound Mini that we now used, the maximum token per minute is 70,000. So we did 5,000 in a couple of seconds. You can do 70,000, but actually sometimes when you use this web search, you might actually quite quickly reach this limit because it might need to do multiple searches, go back. And in that way, you're actually quite likely to hit this limit. So if we want to scale this prompt, we will have to use a more sophisticated approach, a more agentic approach. And in the next video, I will show you how to do that. Moreover, a second problem we have here is that actually now there is still quite a risk of hallucinations. So by going to the internet, it might go to the wrong site, or it might find another Upfest company, and that might kind of contaminate your answer. So when we really want to build a reliable application to generate company descriptions, we will have to do some additional steps to further reduce the risk of hallucination. And this is also something that I will show in another video when we talk about agentic AI. But at least here you can see how easily you can already build a first web search application using the Groq platform. And in the subsequent videos, we will use agentic AI to further improve the scalability and also the accuracy of this approach. So hopefully you are also watching the next videos. Thanks for your attention. Bye.